Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are joined once again by our friend Kate Flory, who's totally computer savvy. She's so good. She's the founder of Kapow Coaching from Scotland, and she's working with people, so many people in her coaching field, mental fitness, as she says, as a confidence coach, and so much more. So Kate, do the honors and tell us a little bit about you and your company.
Thank you. And as always, thank you for having me, Jill, and everybody listening in. So yeah, Kapow Coaching. I have been on the go since 2002. So been around doing coaching and mental fitness and all that lovely stuff, which is all about how do we get people empowered, take control of their own life, their own mind, and just at the end of the day, feel happier, healthier, and just good about themselves.
Oh, well, it's kind of you to do that, to be here again, as always. Would you mind just sharing the best form of contact for you?
Yes. So people can get hold of me at www.kapowcoaching.com. So if you go to my website, you can contact me there. You can even hook up with me. There's a little calendar so you can arrange a one-to-one with me for a chat or even a sample coaching session. So you can do that. And yes, even on LinkedIn, if any of you are big into LinkedIn, you can find me there, Kate Flory on LinkedIn.
Beautiful. Love it. All right. So let's talk a little bit today. I know you want to talk about imposter syndrome statistics, but before we begin, what exactly is imposter syndrome?
So, Jill, we've probably all felt like this at some point in our lives when we just don't feel as if, for whatever reason, we fit in to whatever job or role or situation we're in, that actually everybody should be there except us. And often that's very much linked to our confidence, our self-esteem. And last time we talked about the difference between comfort zone and stretch, and also that risk zone. When we go out of our comfort zone into that stretch zone where we're learning and growing, trying something new, it's uncomfortable. So we can often start doubting ourselves.
Wow.
So imposter syndrome is a phrase that you often hear bandied about. So basically, it's when you just don't feel yourself.
Got it. And you say that 85% of people feel like an imposter. Could you talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's such a high statistic. So if you think about, think about your family, your friends, and you think effectively the majority of people at some point in their life have turned up for a job, have gone to an event, have even met family, sort of interacted, been part of a community and felt that they don't belong, that they don't fit in, that they are an imposter. And it's such a huge statistic, and it can really hold people back if they really allow themselves to believe that they shouldn't be there.
All right. And you say, now, could you talk about the executives and women in particular? Let's go over some more statistics if we can.
Yeah. So certainly I find that what I find in coaching, when I'm dealing with people with coaching with their confidence, and, I coach a lot of senior leaders. And historically, you'd probably think it would be mostly women who come to me. And it is statistically, there are more women who suffer from imposter syndrome than men. But men do also suffer from it. And there's, you've probably even heard of some famous celebrities who've openly admitted to, struggling from imposter syndrome, the likes of Tom Hanks. You'd never think in a million years, Robert Pattinson, some key men who have suffered from imposter syndrome. But certainly we find that statistically, when you get to that higher level, chief execs, 80% of chief execs can feel as if,
wow,
they'll get found out, they feel that imposter.
Gosh, wow, amazing. And, just curious though, the reason, is it because we're feeling overburned, overworked, overstressed, over anxious? Are these some of the things which help cause, unfortunately, imposter syndrome?
They absolutely can be, Jill. Because what happens is when we go into our negative mindset, and I think I've mentioned this before in our conversations, when we go into our negative mindset, we're effectively going into that fight, flight, freeze. And when that happens, our brain literally shuts down and we go into just survival mode.
Yeah.
And so what it means is we can feel more stressed, we can feel anxious, we can not feel good in our own skin, and we lack that confidence. And when we're in that highly overwhelmed, stressed state, we're not working at our best ability. You know, we're not being creative, we're not being compassionate, you know, we're not guided by our inner compass, we're not being decisive, making great choices. So absolutely, when you're overwhelmed, when you're stretched, you can then have those moments of self-doubt.
Yeah. Well, also you mentioned that quite a percentage, almost 50%, what is it, 44%, you say blame fear of speaking out and not feeling comfortable, feeling challenged. Could you talk about that struggle as well?
Yeah. So again, sometimes when somebody is not feeling confident about themselves, and we talked a little bit, again, I've mentioned before the difference between how introverts and extroverts interact. So sometimes when somebody has more, you know, they're a bit more delayed in responding, they take their time, you know, they're a bit more cautious. They may feel as if that they don't have anything of value to share, and or that what they have to say isn't worthwhile because you've got all these other very dominant, loud, very confident voices. So often people can feel as if that they shouldn't say and shouldn't say something or challenge a conversation because either they feel as if they are this, I don't know enough, have this imposter label, or it could just be that's who they are.
Yeah.
They just take
Yeah.
their while in contributing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, one of the good things I have to say, I call it good, but I feel like more of us are aware and more of us are talking about our challenges. And a lot of celebrities have the past few years, it's become, it makes you feel better knowing you're not alone because you think someone of like a really high stature is.
Yeah.
Their life is perfect. They're amazing. They're, you know, but no, they struggle with mental health as well. Could you talk
Yeah.
about that too?
Yeah, and you're right, it has become so much more prevalent that people are owning actually who they are, what's going on in their mind, as well as, you know, their well-being, their mental and their physical well-being. And what's important about that is we take away that shame, we take away that it's only me who feels like that. I think there's power in having like a label to something. So
Yeah.
we just had Neurodiversity Week here in the UK. So there was lots of conversation about how people learn differently. And labels are really great for people to then understand. But we have to be careful. Same with imposter syndrome. It's a great way of expressing how we feel.
Yeah.
But we have to be careful that we don't then make assumptions about what that actually means and how that limits somebody. So you might, so for instance, I went through a period when I stopped working after having my kids, and the first big piece of work that I got, I just felt as if, oh my goodness, I didn't fit in. That everybody else was so up to speed.
Yeah.
They knew what they were talking about. And I felt like I'd missed like years of all this
Wow.
information everybody got access to. This was
Yeah.
all in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really lacked confidence. And in fact, I felt as if I wasn't the expert. Everyone else was an
Yeah.
expert except me.
Uh,
And when we start talking about these things, when we start putting a name to it, we can do something about it, Jill.
yeah.
You know, we can address it.
Yeah.
It's like having, you know, having a sore thumb and you're carrying on and something else, you know, you just things aren't quite working, and then when you notice you've got a sore thumb, you can decide to put a plaster on it, put a bandage on it, do something about it.
Oh, wow. You're right. And you mentioned Lady Gaga, even Tom Hanks. Tell me about some more of the celebrities that have, you know, talked about this and, you know,
Yeah.
struggled with this as well.
I think one of the ones that probably surprised lots of people was Michelle Obama. You know, she has openly talked about how, you know, throughout her career. I mean, she's an incredibly successful woman in her own right.
Yeah.
And, you know, Anne still is very successful. Yet she has said there have been times when she has felt, what am I doing here? And we, by hearing these stories, by understanding that, you know, some of these wonderful, great personalities suffer from this, it makes it okay for us to have those wobbly moments.
Yeah.
You know, to just feel, what am I doing here?
Of course, yeah.
And so for you, Jill, in all that, you know, this wonderful career that you've had, and you've obviously taken time out to have your kids, have you noticed that there's been periods where you've just gone, oh dear, what am I doing now?
Oh, Larry, it's almost all the time. I mean, yes, all the time. It's like life is just, you think you have this A, B, and C, and it's so wonderful. And then the next minute you don't. And then my mom got sick of lung cancer. And then it's like, wait, why did I spend all these years? Why has my priority been my stupid job? Why was I not out there enough? Why did I start a family so late? Why did I just, yeah, there's a lot that we all regret. And, you always wish you knew now what you knew then, but it just, it doesn't happen all the time. But yeah, you just, and in my business especially too, there's been a lot of fear, a lot of confrontation, a lot of I'm not good enough, and this person's better, and you have bosses that have come down upon you, making that clear that you're not good enough. I mean, it's just it's yeah, it was a rough business. And thank God I'm back. I started in radio, went to television for many years, and I only do television part-time. But the radio, I love so much better. I love talking to nice people like yourself. And I'm not out there getting in trouble by a boss because, I'm doing the news and it's just so like tough, rough and tough. But it's pleasant to talk to nice people. And that puts a smile on my face, honestly. And that makes me happy. Now, it really does. What about you, Kate? Tell me a little more in your career, in your life.
Well, I was just going to come back to, so it's lovely that you shared all of that. And what I picked up was that sometimes life experience, like your mom, working within a culture, within an organization, can give us that tension. It could just be a personality. So you have a boss or even a co-worker, a colleague, who for whatever reason just pushes your buttons,
has it out for you.
It can absolutely, it can rock your world. And we can, in those moments, can think, what on earth am I doing? Should I just give it all up, put my slippers on, go back to bed, just not deal with things? So we can all feel that. But we don't, do we? We somehow get over it. And what happens is when we are aware, so it goes back to when we notice we feel this way. And this is what coaching is all about, and mental fitness. You've got to notice when you are either getting that negative chatter, in your head, all those voices telling you what you're doing and what you should be doing and what you're not doing. Or you feel it in your body, don't you, Jill? The tension, the stress, that churny tummy. I have some clients who talk about, they go through a difficult period, and then when they come out of it, they feel as if they've been doing a 3-hour gym session. The whole body is aching because they're really holding all that tension and anxiety in their body. So, we give ourselves clues all the time, and we need to notice it, and then we have choices.
And then there's people that are, for example, let's try, there's different types of imposter syndrome. Someone who's a perfectionist and expects 110% above and beyond and can't accept anything lower, right?
Absolutely. They set really incredible high standards for themselves and also for other people, but especially for themselves. And what it means is that they only expect to do the best, to get the best results, to achieve. And when they don't, they absolutely beat themselves up. So they go in that. So if they go into a situation where they don't think they can be 110%, they may not do it, or they start, that self-doubt happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk about some other forms of imposter syndrome, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So you get somebody who's the expert. And so for them, they absolutely believe that they have to have all of that knowledge, that professionalism. They sometimes go over prepared, they make sure they've got all the information, and they believe that they have to have all of that in place to be able to meet the standard. That's the one that I struggled with when I came back after maternity leave, thinking that everybody else was the expert and I wasn't meeting that standard. So you get people who believe that they have to have that level of expertise.
Yeah. Wow.
And then you've got some who, you know, they might be called the individualist or the soloist. And they believe that they have to do it all themselves. You often find senior leaders who fall down that route where they can't ask for help. They can't be seen to look for assistance anywhere else, because it means that they are not doing their job. They're not being this, again, it links to the expert, but they will go out of their way to just do it by themselves rather than ask for help.
Wow, it's so true. That superhuman role, is that what you call it, right?
And you know, so you also have those who are the superhuman, where they take on everything. So the superhuman's a person who will take on responsibilities, help everybody, do their own job. They're constantly juggling things at work and at home. And they just seem to have all this energy, all this time. You think, how are they managing it? But inside, they are constantly thinking, actually, I'm not achieving enough, because there's so much more that they have to do.
Wow. And also you mentioned, what's this natural genius?
Yeah. So you get some people who think you are born with this skill, this talent, that actually it's not something you learn, but it's innate in you. And so some people, it's that natural ability. And if they can't get something straight away, it's not within their gift, you know, they're a skill, they just get frustrated, they get restless, and they can end up giving up. Or if they don't think they can do it quite naturally, and they're worried about failing, so that fear of failure, and a lot of these are all so linked to other things, but they feel all that again, they just won't start a project, because if they're not skilled enough, that's not innate, then they won't do it.
Interesting. Now, what about, you mentioned this 3-step plan? How could that be helpful?
Yeah. So I mentioned, you know, in coaching and mental fitness, the first thing you have to do is notice. So the first step is notice. Notice how you feel. So notice your body, where the tension is, where the stress is. You know, I mentioned it, you might feel it in your tummy or in your shoulders, or you might feel it in how you breathe. Or you notice the negative chatter that's going on in your head. You know, those little, the critical voices. So you notice it. And then you name it. So you might not know it's you being the expert or you trying to be superhuman, but you'll name the fact that I'm feeling out of my depth here. Or you name it. I feel a bit of an imposter right now. You name it. And by naming it, you're starting to disarm it. And then the next stage is about, how do you nurture yourself? So you've named it, and you've got to nurture yourself by being your own best friend.
True. Yeah.
So what do you need to do? So if you're feeling out of your depth, it's, who do you ask to help you? If you're feeling overwhelmed, how can you scale down your own personal expectations?
Yeah.
If you're feeling stressed, how can you give yourself a little bit more slack? So it's about nurturing yourself.
True.
Being your own best friend, or even looking for that help.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. What else? By the way, before we continue, remind us how we can reach out to you, Kate. Thank you.
Yep. So anyone can reach me on www.kapowcoaching.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. What other parts of the plan do you think would be beneficial to someone?
So, like I said, noticing and naming is fabulous. So what people can do is they can certainly get in touch with me via my website. And if they just want to have a coaching sample, a conversation where we can explore what's going on in your mind and how you're feeling a bit like an imposter at work or even at home or in your community, then they can get through to me on my website and we can set that up. And that's something that I do for free. So anybody is welcome to get in touch with me. Something else that's really useful, excuse me, something else that's really useful is a form of self-coaching, and it's a reflective writing practice. And myself and my fellow coactive coach and mental fitness coach, Moon Lee, myself and Moon are running this free reflective writing session. Again, anyone can come and join us. And it's an hour session, and it's 5 o'clock UK time. So that's about 9 o'clock New York time. So again, it's a free session, and it gives you some of the tools to stop and think about what's going on in your life. And if people love that, we've got a full 4-week program that they can join us later on in May, which is a bit longer. It's an 1.5-hour session.
Got it. Well, thank you so much. So again, notice you said negative feelings or words, name it. You got a place, you said a place of blameless discernment, and then nurture yourself. Gotta help be your own best friend.
Yeah. Our critical voices is that negative chatter. It's that some people call them gremlins, some call them, our saboteurs. We all know, we all recognize how we can be our own worst enemy. And so actually putting ourselves first, thinking, if my best friend was here, struggling with all this, what would I say to them? Because we would know what we need to hear from ourselves, to look after ourselves, to be compassionate.
Yeah. Those small, little, simple things can really go a long way, right?
They absolutely can. We've talked about gratitude before, and we've talked about, those positive words, telling ourselves what we can do, those positive affirmations. All of these are about building up our self-confidence, our self-esteem, but also our self-awareness. And coaching and mental fitness is all about self-awareness, being aware of who we are, what we need, and understanding what's going to give us the best, to be the best that we can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can, right? And people like you, again, Kate Flory's here helping us, with your coaching sessions. And you also offer, what's this free reflective writing workshop? What's that?
Yep. So the reflective writing is an hour session where so myself and Moon give you this process, and it's just a process, and it's a real deep reflection. So it's not journaling, it's not, this is what I had for my breakfast, or who I met. It's going deep inside, thinking about perspectives, giving you a chance, almost like an onion, taking off the layers of the onion to go deeper and deeper, peeling it back to find some insight, and to find some feelings, and to find some inspiration from yourself. And that's a free session that I'm running on the 18th of April, Tuesday, the 18th of April at 5 o'clock UK time, 9 a.m. New York time.
Perfect. Oh my goodness. And this free coaching session, and we can reach out to you at any time for, what else did you want to share with our listeners? We still have a few minutes left here, Kate.
So I think one of the things that I think I really believe in about the power of coaching is that absolutely hiring a coach really takes you deeper, faster, further. But because I started self-coaching when I was in my 20s, and I'm more than that, well more than that now. I've been doing this for decades, and I really believe in the power of self-coaching. Reflective writing is a great way. That moment of taking some inspiration, or just that self-awareness. So, we know people are struggling financially these days. There are loads of tools out there. And self-coaching, that self-awareness, just having that intention to be better, to feel better, to try something new, to stretch yourself, is all within everybody's grasp. And if somebody needs some help and they can afford it, then hire a coach, because we will help you get there faster, quicker, and far deeper.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Kate. So why don't you remind us how we can reach out to you, please? Thank you.
So Kate Flory, you can get to me on LinkedIn, or reach me on www.kapowcoaching.com. And that's KAPOW coaching.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Pleasure having you back here as always. Great to see you. And thank you for all your positivity and the work you're doing to help us. Yes. We feel superhuman sometimes. We try to. Yeah, that we're all flawed. Come on, it's okay. Thank you so much, Kate. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you, and you.
Thank you so
See you
much.
later.
Bye-bye, hon.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.